Stand by for action. Anything can happen in the next half hour.
You're listening to the Excellent Podcast. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Wild Consultants, saving your project, one deliverable at a time.
My name is Napoleon Solo.
I am Ilya Kuryakin.
Alexander Wagolev, number 1 section 1. It's from here that I send these young men on their various missions.
Don't crack yourselves in. I'm going to make a jump to light speed. Excellent!
I'm Bill.
And I'm Joe.
And this is the Excellent Podcast.
Awesome.
Today,
and excellent. All at the same time.
It's all those things.
So, Bill, what are we doing today?
Today we're going to talk to Charles Bentley, head of the Voice of Charles Bentley, a voice talent agency located somewhere deep in the heart of the Southern Hemisphere. And he'll be talking to us about starting a voice business, running a voice business, doing voiceovers, etc. Which would be good because I could use some cues and clues. I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, come on, man. You do too. And before we talk to Charles, we're going to talk a little bit about projects and what they are and why we're doing this thing in the first place.
Indeed. The reason for this podcast to exist in the first place. And in general, it is to cover excellence. We want to find the examples of excellence that motivate and instruct and inform anyone who's involved in doing anything, which should be everyone, really. And the downfalls and pitfalls are just as important as well. So we're going to be covering extreme successes, extreme failures. The only thing we won't be covering much of is the soft, chewy, mediocre middle.
Or our own extreme failures.
Well, and we've had a few of those. Fortunately, this isn't one of them.
Well,
Yet.
we're really
Of course,
glad
the
to have
show
you
is
today.
young, so
We're really glad to have you today. And so, Bill, when you think about a project, how would you surmise what a project actually is?
Well, I would say that a project is something defined by goals. The fewer goals, the better. If you could specify one goal for a project, and that goal being definable as success, then you're doing well. That's how I like to approach a project. Start it from the end and work backwards. If you're looking at it from a time traveler's point of view, you're already looking at it from the past. What does this successful project look like? And then you just work your way backward from that point, finding out resources and avoiding risks and minimizing threats to the successful conclusion of the project.
Yeah, but if your time machine is broke or your Krell machine is not working, then we have to do something completely different.
Then that's a different project. So then it becomes a
boring.
And really difficult because then you just travel in a straight line into the future like we do.
Yeah, sometimes.
You can't go back and fix anything.
Well, I'm a certified project manager through PMI, and PMI's description of a project is pretty well known. They describe a project as having something. A project is something that has a beginning and an end, not like Western music, which has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But it has a beginning and an end, and it's a limited duration thing that has an output that becomes either a product or service or something. Typically, when you think project management, it's kind of official. You're thinking about software design or building some big bridge or construction effort or something like that. But a project can be something really simple, like hosting a Comic-Con or building a clown show or managing your band. And I think one of the things that we would like to see happen here with the Excellent Podcast is the different kinds of projects that are out there. We would like to get people to come and talk about their project and share some information that might be useful in others, helping them to understand how to build a business or maintain a business, manage a project, do business analysis, whatever is required within the realm of a project, not just being the project manager. So this podcast isn't really oriented towards the best way to be a project manager. Every project is different. We're going to hold to that. We have some other folks that are involved with this podcast that use other disciplines like Prince 2, and there are others. So,
Agile.
Yeah, agile. So all of those things will get touched upon over the course of time, but for the most part, we're going to try and focus on interesting projects and interesting people doing interesting projects, including Bill's time machine.
Right, exactly, which apparently is now broken. Thanks.
I'm sorry about that, Bill.
No, we're stuck in a temporal anomaly.
Oh, not again.
Quite literally. Again.
I hated when
again.
that happened the last 3 times.
Right. It's Groundhog Day.
Oh, no. All right, well, Bill, why don't you tell us a little bit about our guest, and let's kind of move forward.
Charles Bentley, one of the most talented individuals I've ever met. He's extremely broadly traveled. He has been involved in business from every level, from recruiting to managing large international financial deals and everything in between. We actually met years ago when he recruited me for a large software development project for Intel. And he's since done a lot of interesting things, but he's involved now in this voice talent realm and capability. So he's going to be talking to us later, and he's going to be describing some of the ups and downs of the business, some things you would need to know if you were getting into it, some things you may not know, problems that you'll encounter if you decide to go into that business. And just like all of our guests, he is a really excellent example. He's best of breed in what he does, and he's going to be sharing those tips with you because, frankly, when you're the best, you really don't have to worry about competition. So he's not afraid. I'm not afraid. You afraid, Joe?
No, not really.
No.
Well, maybe a little.
We have no fear, but
That's okay. All right, well, thanks, Bill. Thanks for that. I don't know much about Charles. He's a very interesting character. I did get a chance to be involved with the interview, and New Zealand, wow.
right. Beautiful country, lovely place, full of all sorts of Middle Earth creatures and producers
TV
shows and producers and directors with funny accents.
Now, you actually lived in New Zealand for a while.
I did. I lived in New Zealand for almost 15 years, and I still have family there.
And what kind of projects did you do when you were in New Zealand?
I built and maintained a suite of mission-critical airline reservation systems for Air New Zealand. That's what actually took me over there initially. And after I did that, I went on to, I think I did my first software management job there as well. And I was working for a group that maintained multiple reservation systems for Australia and New Zealand carriers. So I was actually commuting from Australia to New Zealand on a regular basis, back and forth, spending reasonable time in both countries, and really enjoying myself and getting to see the country, getting to meet a lot of interesting Aussies and Kiwis.
You also did some stuff with utilities there, as I recall.
I did. I did some work for very large. It was actually New Zealand's largest electrical supplier, electrical company. It was kind of the equivalent of our ERCOT here, and did some cutting-edge software implementation for their SCADA system. It's basically the just-in-time maintenance and system availability programs that they were using, which is really interesting if you're in the business. If you're not, it's boring. Yeah, exactly. Joe, I'm still speaking. Joe.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry,
that's
Bill.
all right.
And you did some radio while you were there as well, right?
I did do some radio there. We actually had the first libertarian radio station in the hemisphere, and I had a product at the time that I bought some advertising time for, and I recorded an ad for it, and the producers at the station asked me if I wanted to have a show because apparently I have a voice for radio.
You certainly have a face for radio.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Bill. Awesome. All right. Well, without further ado, I think we should just go ahead and move into the interview we did with Charles, and we'll catch you on the other side of that.
Excellent!
Today we're talking to Charles Bentley, or we're talking to his voice anyway. We're going to talk to Charles about his business in general, his entry into the business in particular, what he's done, what he's found interesting and terrifying about the business, and one of the really excellent things that he would like everyone listening to the podcast to know. First of all, good afternoon, Charles, or actually it's morning your time, isn't it?
Yeah, hi, Bill. Nice to talk to you. And hello, Joe.
Hello,
how's the United
Charles.
States today?
Excellent. What time is it
Most
there?
excellent.
No, I guess we don't care, do we?
Well, we can ask him. We can be polite. We don't really have to care about the answer.
It's 12:40 in the afternoon. 12:40 in the afternoon, yeah.
Okay, well, good. Well, it's 6:40 here.
And where
Yeah.
on the map are you anyway?
At the moment, I'm in Auckland in New Zealand. So we're enjoying spring. Weather's warming up. Lovely day. And I've got a lunch appointment I'm looking forward to with someone I haven't seen for 35 years. So I'm looking forward to that. So when we're done here, I'll be jumping into the car and heading across town.
That's great. And so the first thing that our first guest on the Excellent Podcast is thinking about is, when the hell can I get out of here to my next appointment? That's great.
Great.
Yeah.
She was a ballerina at high school, so I can't wait to see what she looks like now.
Yeah, you got any pics? Oh, I don't know. 35 years isn't typically kind.
Yeah, I have. I've seen her. Yes, she looks fantastic.
Does she really? Does she really? All right. Well, maybe we'll post some flattering or compromising photographs over on the blog.
Well, I've decided not to wear those tights, because it's a little
Oh,
embarrassing.
not you. Oh, good. Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, I assumed it was a female ballerina. Not that we judge. So tell us, Charles, what is it? What is the voice of Charles Bentley?
Okay, so for about 10 years, I've had friends say you should get into the voiceover business, and I've ignored them, much to my own chagrin. I should have actually done it. And a project, a role that I was involved in doing some IT work came to an end, and I decided that I would have a look at this sort of seriously. Thought, right, I'll give it a go. I've got a lot of friends who have encouraged me to, look into this seriously. So I thought I'll read a couple of books, read a couple of great books on the subject, and decided, yeah, I'll give it a go. So basically, on a bit of a shoestring, threw a studio together, started doing some work and started getting into the business. And in consultation with some friends, came up with the brand of Voice of Charles Bentley. Ties back to my English roots, I think. And so that's really what I'm running with. So I'm looking at various markets, the usual stuff, commercials, narration, video. And because I've got an extensive network from my past history, I've been able to exploit that quite well.
So the voice business now, our backgrounds are IT and entertainment and project management and all sorts of things, really not having a lot to do. Well, I take that back. Actually, Joe's been professionally voicing for a very long time.
For many years.
Yeah, but he's for some reason he's decided to stop doing that and help me do this. But what is the business like out there, Charles? What do you find in terms of competition and opportunity?
Well, they say there's 150,000 people trying to do it. Since companies started to move towards home studio production, this is to increase the throughput of particularly book narrations. Amazon, I understand, want to turn every book into an audiobook. Well, you can imagine there's a hell of a lot of books out there. So to do that, studios were set up to get narrators through, but they found they just couldn't. ACX, for example, which is a subsidiary of Amazon, couldn't reach its goals. So they basically developed a home studio model and developed a forum and a mechanism to get people recording books at home. And they've increased their throughput by about a factor of 10. So that's fantastic. But there's still plenty of work out there for people who want to have a go. It's a great second job or a primary income if you're so inclined. Right. For people who feel that way inclined. They want to have a go and a bit of money. And so that's what you can do. So
very good.
In terms of competition, I've taken some lessons from my past. I'm not doing what other people do, which is when you go to a site to pick a narrator, you get, page after page of talking heads with funny Scottish accents, or they sound like they're on some sort of drug or steroid. I thought about what is it that makes a good narrator or voiceover person, and I think it's an excellent storyteller, it's an excellent communicator, and a lot of that's born from experience. And I decided, there's a great illustration in the Old Testament of Saul's armor. When David goes out to fight Goliath, Saul offers him his armor, and he finds he can't work with it. And he goes out with his pebbles and his sling, which is quite common. I'm sure many people know that classic story, and goes out seemingly defenseless, but he wins against Goliath. This business is the same. Your armor, your real strength is just being you. And it takes quite a lot of courage to just be an authentic you, in the sense of we have to deal with our own doubts and fears and your insecurities. But what you've got to do is just be you, be your experience, be who you are, step up and just be who you are. You only want a small segment of the market. You're not trying to win over everybody or become necessarily an internationally famous person. You don't have to do that to be a success. You can be a success in this business and virtually people do not, well, a lot of people don't even know of you. And it doesn't matter. You know, what's your goal? Mine is to make an income, you know, a reasonable income and control of my own business, my time, and the lifestyle that goes with that, in terms of being able to walk from my bedroom to my office in, 20 seconds, sit in my studio and earn money and take on projects that I personally enjoy and talk about things that I enjoy. So I believe that's the way to go, just to be you and to draw on your life experience, such as whatever that may be, and bring that into your narration, into your voice acting and so forth. So that's my strategy anyway.
Fantastic. That's great. Now, obviously, what you've experienced so far, and applying your own personal strengths and spin to things, and being able to pick and choose your own projects and do it on your own time, those are all pluses. What's a minus about the business that you've encountered that maybe you didn't anticipate when you first started out?
Well, competition. There are a lot of people, and trying to stand out. It's a story that faces most people in business. You're unknown. You have no track record. The juiciest contracts, the best agencies, they'll work with you if you've got a track record. So how do you get a track record? The old catch-22. Until you've got the experience, nobody wants to hire you. And so the trick is, how do I go about getting the experience? So that's quite difficult. So you've got to go for low-hanging fruit, poorly paid or no paid jobs at all. And just to start to build up your voiceover resume by getting a few early wins, and then parlay that into experience and a presentation and just build your profile. And I think you have to be bold. You just have to be bold. And I guess the thing is, it's not about having a great voice. It's about running a great business. And that's what people forget. 80% of this is the business, not you talking. If you just think a great voice will win you, it's not enough. You won't fail, but you won't make a living at it.
Right. Fascinating. Good advice applied to anything. What's the worst thing about the business that you're currently experiencing? Is there an ongoing downside to it? We were talking offline, and there were some opportunities that were presented to you that you declined.
Well, in wanting to grow my narration side of my business, I've taken on some easy wins. The people were impressed with my voice, my presentation, what I could do. What I didn't realize was just how shocking their appalling the manuscripts were that I was receiving. Now, under the ACX model, for those people who are listening who don't know what that is, that's a place, as I said, it's an Amazon subsidiary, brings together narrators and authors where you can bid for work. They've got 3 business models or finance models for getting payment. One of them, of course, is royalty share, which is basically all risk, okay? So you get X amount of dollars per download should people purchase. What this, of course, means is that you're now at risk. You spend time in your studio, you record, you do all of that. Now you're relying on 2 factors. One, the author to push the product, push your audible narration, and also Amazon that can arbitrarily and of their sole discretion alter the price and affect your margin. They can bundle your audio book with other books, and you can look at a margin decrease of quite a few percent, and you have no control over that. So what this means is risk. So, okay, with that risk, I want to turn out a manuscript as quickly as possible. High quality, but I want to be as efficient as I can. When you get a manuscript with appalling grammar, with no punctuation, that's just chronically bad put together, I've just rejected one today. I've just sent it back to the author and said, look, you need to QA your manuscript before you send it to me. My time is too valuable. It's a minimum of $250 US an hour without exception. I don't take on any project for less than that. Whether it's 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 20 minutes, I don't do it. It's as simple as that. After all, I have to read, proofread, and normally that's about understanding what they're trying to communicate, not do someone's grammar, punctuation, spelling, and clear mistakes in the body of the text. Then produce a roadmap of how I'm going to narrate that, record it, sound engineer it, master it and or mix it, and then supply the finished product. I do all of that, and I'm not going to do that for less than, say, the minimum wage of $7.25 if I've got an hour's finished product, which is all I'm paid for, and it's taking me 20 hours to produce.
Are there any other players in the market on this that you're aware of?
Yeah, well, I'm learning that all the time. There are, but one of the advantages, of course, with ACX is it gives you contract protection. It locks the author in. You get access to Amazon, so you get a huge market. But, in anything in life, you never get anything without, a trade-off somewhere. So Amazon control the price and they can lock you into a contract for 7 years, but then they've got huge global reach, which is fantastic. The downside is, of course, is that your margins may be thinner. You can cut a private deal with an author, but then they've also got to find a way of delivering their audio books. There's probably 7 other companies out there, certainly 4 other major competitors. But at this stage, I've just stuck with ACX at this point. I'm looking actually at developing my own storefront and selling products under my own name, other people's books, period, as well as my own work that I've got in the pipeline. I've got some major projects that I'm going to be undertaking in the next 3 months and launching that will be quite significant.
Outstanding. So you'd be a resource that people would get a hold of if they wanted to basically have you be their publisher or have you be their professional consultant. I assume you're available for engagements like that.
Well, you look at every opportunity. But, here's the thing, like most things with the internet, Bill, and technology, it's getting easier and easier to publish all the time, an erosion of the middlemen. But the reality is Amazon have had a very, predatorial, aggressive approach to the marketplace to obtain market share by pricing extremely competitively. Yeah. Unfortunately, your margins get squeezed in that. But like in anything, there's niches for quality. There's opportunities, there's relationships, there's all kinds of things you can do. So obviously with my own work, will be just sold exclusively, I'd say at this stage, through my own website. And if people really like my voice and my style, there's only one place you can buy it, and that's through me.
Right.
Remember, there's 2 billion customers out there potentially now on the internet. So I don't have to, again, it comes up the old argument, the long tail argument, which I'm sure some of your listeners will be familiar with. I don't need to win it all. I'm not talking about 80% of the market. I'm talking about a fraction of the global internet market to be a business success of this size. And that's all I'm focused on at this stage.
And that's a great band name, too, by the way, Erosion of the Middleman.
It is.
I love that.
It is great.
Heavy metal.
And of course, if the requirements are such that they support the need for a lot of work, it can be outsourced to certain call center areas.
There's always that.
Well, gents, one of the great things about Indians is the massive middle class, which is now, I think there's more middle class Indians than there are Americans, have got money. And guess what? They all speak English. So what a great market to go after. So, yeah. So although we're having a bit of a laugh, but
perhaps I could go into the Indian market. Perhaps I could use the accent and go into the Indian market and sell slushies in Mumbai.
I don't know if you're really trying to curry favor in the way you ought to be.
We don't pay extra for comedy,
Well, that is actually the point, right?
That's fantastic. This has been outstanding, Charles. Thank you so much. One more question, if you would. If there is one thing that you'd want all the listeners to know, there's one thing that you'd want to leave them with that perhaps they wouldn't have heard somewhere else, or perhaps maybe they would have, but it's exceptionally important to you personally, and you'd want to pass it on, what would that be?
Well, because I'm speaking to a couple of gentlemen in Texas and thinking about America, thinking about the business, thinking about the competition and how many people try and fail in this business or never make an income, it's quite tough. And the business, of course, has changed dramatically in the last 10, 15 years. when people had to travel to studios and record. Yeah, it was quite a small club. Now the internet's opened it up. So I was thinking, the voice of Charles Bentley, make voiceover great again.
Perfect.
Yeah,
And on
thank
that
you,
note,
voiceover.
excellent time
Great
to
again.
say goodbye.
Excellent.
Thank you very much,
done.
Charles.
That's perfect.
Okay. Thanks,
Beautiful.
guys.
Thank you, Charles.
See ya.
And again, that's Charles Bentley at voiceofcharlesbentley.com.
Does your documentation have a case of the Mondays? Do you need a critical deliverable for a project? The experts at Wild Consultants specialize in on-demand deliverables, including policies, procedures, and training materials, technical and general writing, PMBA, or process improvement documents. Visit wildconsultants.com, WYLD Consultants. Wild Consultants, saving your project one deliverable at a time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Charles Bentley. Excellent interview. Excellent field to get into. Excellent example of getting into the field. It's a low barrier to entry field. It does require quality of voice, obviously. It requires quality of personality, and Charles has that in spades. So thank you so much, Charles. Do appreciate it. Looking forward to having him back on the podcast in the very near future.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that this show is created in and around the Austin, Texas area. Austin tends to have a lot of really interesting opportunities for guests, and we've got X Games and South by Southwest and film festivals and pretty much you name it, and it happens here. So we hope to have some really interesting guests in the future just because of where we happen to be. Last night, Austin hosted the Startup Crawl. Who knew, but this is Startup Week in Austin. Turned out to be an excellent event with a couple of hundred vendors that were showing off their technologies. And, you know, I got to spend a little bit of time with some of those folks, and it was really fun and lots of great things. Maybe we'll talk about that on the blog or something. But stay tuned for more interesting stuff from the heart of Texas.
And if you do have an interesting startup, if you have successfully cracked the shell of a major project, if you have succeeded in the face of adversity and done an excellent job of it, we'd love to have you on the podcast. Conversely, if you have seen the rot and terror of a project failure up close and personal, we'd love to have you on the podcast as well. It's a great idea to know where to go. It's a very, very useful idea to know where not to go in a project. So give us a call, shoot us an email. We'll give you the contact details at the end of the podcast. If you'd like to be on, we'd love to talk to you.
We really want to just focus on being encouraging. So if there's anything that we can do to make this podcast better, feel free to feedback on our website. I'd like to say thanks to several people who made this possible. Racer X Superheroes, the title cut was used for our intro. Also, want to say thanks again to Charles Bentley. Excellent job. We appreciate everything that you shared with us. And bensound.com provided the sound for the music beds. Also, want to thank Wild Consultants for supporting our projects. Thanks a lot, guys. We hope you have a great time this week, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Excellent.
This has been the Excellent Podcast. Remember to be excellent to everyone.